Yo, back at it again. Rasmus over here. So this is gonna be more questions from Reddit. This another question comes out as caffeine. Well, I've talked about caffeine previously. I probably should do a whole video on caffeine because I think it's one of the most underrated supplements out there. Um, it is something that it's widely used. It's perfectly legal. Um, and people kind of, I guess, they use caffeine in like I think a lot of supplement companies use caffeine in a way that they put it in products and they don't really state it, but they say, "Oh, this could be amazing," and for the most part, most of the work is done by the caffeine. Um, in terms of supplements that is actually helpful and beneficial, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of evidence behind it as well. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that the caffeine does give you a kick after you drink it. There's very few people that don't respond to it, and some people that over respond to it and just, cause anxiety, palpitations, things like that, increased blood pressure. So, yeah, some people should kind of stay clear or have minimal doses of caffeine. But yeah, for most general people, it is something that's perfectly fine, and it has been shown to be a performance booster in terms of anaerobic and aerobic exercises, and in terms of sprinting, which is anaerobic exercise without that meaning without any oxygen. It's done in such a quick time. Um, yeah, it's very beneficial in terms of exercise. With caffeine, um, in terms of the appropriateness or the drugs kind of scheduling, according to WADA, it is something that is perfectly legal to use, but you actually have to be careful because there is a certain dosage that, um, if they test it in your body, you can be banned, pretty much as like using performance enhancing drugs because it is a strong stimulant, or it can be a strong stimulant if you're use a lot of it. Um, I know with pseudoephedrine or epinephrine or ephedra, this is something like you find in cough and cold products, which is usually just for cold and flu, but those are very strong stimulants. Those ones are completely banned. Um, so it is something that you can take, but you have to make sure you take it at least 2 weeks before you actually are competing or getting a test, because that can pop up in a drug test, um, when you do it after a race, and you can get banned for that. And people have gotten banned for it, because they've had a cold or whatnot, taken it, and then they got to competition and they're banned. So you kind of have to stay clear of like cold and flu products that have the pseudoephedrine in it, um, because it is a strong stimulant. Even though it's something that, like, after a day or two, it will pretty much be not effective for the general person. Usually, it's like a 4 hour kind of period that it is strongly effective. But yeah, usually after a couple of days, it'll be out of your system, and well, it's not gonna be completely out of your system, but the effects won't be there. So it's kind of one of these gray area things that you have to be careful of. And that's kind of the same with caffeine. Um, like one or two coffees before a race or a Red Bull or whatnot can be perfectly legal. But if you have a couple, or if you have a very strong caffeine drink or tablet or something like that, that can actually pop up in a test, when you're being tested for PEDs. And there is a WADA banned substances list, and caffeine is one of those things that's on it. And it doesn't it on this list it doesn't say caffeine itself is completely banned. It says that caffeine is banned when you have a certain amount in your body system. So you just have to be careful about that. In terms of caffeine dosing, usually you would find doses of 100 milligrams of caffeine. So that's just like, um, I would say there's a caffeine tablet which is 100 milligrams. A drink of Red Bull or something like that, I believe they start from 70 milligrams. The big ones can go up to like 180 or 200. I know with some of the Korean or the Japanese energy drinks, they're like 200 milligrams flat, and that's heaps strong. So some of them, yeah, because that's another thing as well with some supplements. It depends on the way you take it. So with caffeine, if you're gonna take it by drink, it's gonna work a lot faster because there's a lot less breakdown that the body has to do to get it. Like if you take a tablet, that has to be dissolved and everything like that, and you're not gonna get the full amount of the caffeine into your system, or the availability is not gonna be as strong. And that's one thing about supplements you kind of have to be careful about. The way that you take a supplement can determine how it works as well. Um, in terms of, well, actually, I just stick to caffeine, but yeah, I can explain with a whole lot of other supplements as well. And one thing that about caffeine is that there are studies that show that if you're taking caffeine with creatine, that has been shown to like improve the performance of caffeine, and because they work synergistically together. Um, but yeah, in terms of caffeine, it's something that's very effective in sprinting. Um, Usually the dosages do vary. For one actual interesting fact is, um, with most people, I know that just one can of Red Bull, which is like 70 milligrams, or the big one up to like 180. Um, the You can go up to, I think, we 1 gram almost, like for most people, because like usually you're gonna be 10 milligrams per kilo is usually the like maximum recommended dose. So somebody that's like 70 kilos, they'll be like 700 milligrams, which is a lot of caffeine. Like that'll be like 3-4 cans of Red Bull. So, or like 3 cans of the big Red Bull, which is a lot of caffeine, which is, I wouldn't recommend it. I know that there's like some strong coffees. They're like, I think these little shot ones, they're like 500 milligrams, which is a ridiculous amount. I know there's like a cold pressed coffee I had before that was like 360. So just two of those is just a ridiculous amount of caffeine. But usually 10 milligrams per kilo, which, yeah, for a 70 kilo male would be like 700 milligrams. And you kind of work it out for your body weight. And that's usually like the max dose. Any, like a lot more, you can have risk of severe side effects. So yeah, I I know it's like some bodybuilders, like what's his name, Kai Green, like he has like, I think 1.5 grams, which is like ridiculous amount of caffeine. But then again, he's a pretty big guy, so that does explain it. But that is a things like that are, yeah, very high. So you have to be careful if you're gonna be taking caffeine, or well, yeah, if you're gonna take caffeine specifically, because it is a very strong stimulant, and it can be a very strong stimulant if you're using it. Um, yeah, for the most part, one of the things is that you do from day to day. If you drinking regular caffeine, like one coffee a day, there's no issues on that. You do find that after you stop for a couple of days, you do get withdrawal effects. You'll be feeling sluggish, you get headaches. Um, it's good for your bowels in that it keeps it regular, and it keeps it stimulated, because it is a stimulant, kind of laxative for most people. Some of the diuretic effects, as in like the amount of water you lose or you urinate out, is, they're saying that it is minimal. I'm not sure on it. I guess people exaggerate how much they urinate and everything like that, because some placebo effects can be observed, or I guess it varies from person to person as well. But yeah, for the most part, it does have other effects that you'll notice when you get off it, and as well as when you're on it as well. One of the things it does help with is focus and everything like that. So in terms of sprinting, it is a very good supplement. I'd say probably the best supplement, most effective supplement you can use. So just a general cup of coffee in the day, and you're gonna do a competition. I think for most people that's gonna be fine. I think for most people just have a regular coffee, or some people that have Red Bulls, they do that anyway. So you get that benefit. I know there is Nick Symmonds Rum Gum. I haven't tried it myself, but that's not just another kind of method of getting caffeine in your system, and it does have the benefit of being chewing gum, which is kind of like a clever trick, where there are studies that show that if you're like chewing on something, or especially when you're doing exercise, it kind of gives you like it's kind of a stress reliever in a way, because you're doing an action that's like repetitive and you're kind of relaxing your nerves in a way. But it's kind of, yeah, because you're having caffeine, it's the opposite, because kind of stimulating the nerves, so it kind of balances out. Yeah, but it also depends on exercise you're doing. I guess running while chewing gum is not the greatest thing. Yeah, you can probably choke on yourself or something like that. But in terms of just using it as something that just gets you quick energy, yeah, it is pretty good. But yeah, in overall, caffeine is something that, in terms of sprinting, it's very effective. I know I've heard I've seen studies that people have increased times of like 10%, which sounds about right for the most part, especially when you're doing an activity as sprinting, because it is very dependent on like your CNS, your strength, your output, and yeah, you can get a lot of energy out of it, out of it in a short window as well. But that's pretty much it I gotta say about caffeine. Yeah, as I said, it's a very effective substance. It comes in many different forms that you can use. You have to be careful about how you use those forms, because the way you use it can mean that it's stronger in one form than another, i.e. drinking it is different from swallowing a tablet, which is different from using a chewing gum. So yeah, as well as using coffee as well, because that's a different amount of caffeine that's going to be in your system as well. So like a standard dosage is 10 milligrams per kilo. So for somebody that's 70 kilos, that's like 700 milligrams. Usually the maximum dose is recommended is 800 milligrams. That's what I've read in most studies, that the max ceiling dose of caffeine that you should be taking as a normal person is like 800 milligrams. One thing I didn't mention is that women are actually metabolize caffeine a lot faster. So you would notice that some women actually take more caffeine than men, and people get confused about that. And that's a lot to do with like estrogen and how that works. So that's why you see that I know some women take a lot more, and like I've seen videos where guys are like, oh, how much pre-workout you take, and this girl's like, oh, I take 3 scoops and all that, and like these guys are surprised that they think that because you're bigger you should be able to take more, but it's not always that case with some medications and some supplements and all that. Yeah, in the case of caffeine, women usually can take more, because they do have estrogen, which helps metabolize caffeine a little bit faster. People that smoke as well, they do metabolize caffeine a little bit faster. So once they stop smoking and they start caffeine, they realize it's like, whoa, it's a big kick, you know. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, the smoke slows down the caffeine metabolism. So usually slows down, speeds up. Which way it would be? Yeah, I guess it speeds up. Or how does it work? I don't know, but generally, I have to get back to that. Probably, yeah. But yeah, that the metabolism is different when you're smoking as well. So like if you start smoking, you know that a lot less caffeine does affect you a little bit more than when you were smoking, because of the way that metabolizes. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, definitely one of the best supplements, or just a general kind of coffee or whatever that does help you with. It's one of the best things you can use as a energy booster for most people. Just still have to be careful, because it is something that can be, if taken in excess, it can be actually used as a performance enhancing drug by WADA. So they will consider it a performance enhancing drug, because depending on how much is in your system. But that's pretty much it for that. I can probably do a whole video on caffeine, all I'm concerned. I can do a whole video on other supplements as well. Yeah. Anyway, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.